and in today's video I'm going to be talking about stippling, which is a way of creating art using just dots and also creating the illusion of different colors by combining certain colors together. So we're actually going to be looking at this picture and talking about how to create this using just dots and what color combinations to use while only using our three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. Let's get started. Pointillism is a way of creating art using only dots or stippling. In order to create value, you'll do your dots really close together and even on top of each other for darker areas or shadows. And then to create the illusion of lighter areas or highlights, you'll gradually start to space those dots further and further apart until you end up creating a value scale going from dark to light. Pointillism also allows artists to create the illusions of different colors, even though they may only be using a few. So here you can see I have my primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. So by combining our primary colors together, I'm going to show you how to create your secondary colors without actually using them. So with my yellow, I'm going to be spacing my red in between the areas of my yellow dots, which will end up giving me the illusion of having orange. In order to do this, you want to use mostly yellow and a little bit of red. Now with my red, I'm going to turn this into purple by adding my blue dots in between my red dots. And last, I'm going to create green in my blue circle by adding yellow in between my blue dots. Now at first, these may just look like they're separated colors, yellow and red, red and blue, blue and yellow. But watch what happens when I condense all of the dots more closely together. Now that I've condensed the dots a little bit more, you can easily see that this is supposed to be orange, purple, and green. Now what happens if I want to try to make brown? Well, in order to make brown, you have to decide, do you want a really warm brown, a cool brown, or a dark brown? If you want a warm brown, you'll start with your orange. If you want a cool brown, you'll start with your green. And if you want a dark brown, you'll start with your purple. So I'm going to show you how to make a dark brown. I'm going to use these same colors and then a little bit of yellow to create the illusion of a brown circle. So now that I have my purple, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of yellow over the top to achieve the look of a dark brown. So now I've achieved the look of a dark brown. So let's take a quick look on how to use these colors to create a three-dimensional sphere. So first I've outlined my circle with my yellow. Next I need to decide where my sun is or where my light source is. So I'll say that it's right about here, meaning that it'll be hitting my sphere right around here for my lightest highlights. So I'm going to go in a curved motion around the sides of the circle in order to create a shadow. And just like I talked about with our value scale, in order to have shadows, we want the dots to be spaced closer together for the darker shadows and further apart for the lighter shadows. So here is the finished part of my yellow sphere. Now I'm not quite done with this because I want it to look even more realistic. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my red and I'm going to add more shadows to this. Now because the red is going to make it darker, I don't need to use nearly as much red as I did with the yellow. I will still follow the same rule of spacing the dots closer together for the shadows and further apart for the highlights. Now you can see that the sphere is starting to pop off the paper even more. So last, I'm really going to push it by adding some blue dots. And similar to the red, I really don't need to use as many blue dots as the red or the yellow. The blue is just to really push those dark shadows. So I will only be using a very small amount of it. So here's my finished sphere. You can see that it's definitely a lot more three-dimensional and it pops off the page a little bit more. Before we look at a picture that we're going to try to create with pointillism, here are some examples of other materials you can use. So here's an example of crayon with a value scale as well as a three-dimensional sphere, and then colored pencil with the value scale and another sphere. Both of these make smaller marks. They are also not quite as saturated, meaning you do have to press harder and use a lot more dots, but these are options of other supplies you can use. So here's a picture that I printed out of a sunflower that I'm going to try to draw using just pointillism. I'm also going to show you how to draw this with only the primary colors. So I will not be using any green or any brown or any other colors aside from yellow, red, and blue. So the supplies that I will be using are 1, a printout of a picture I'm going to draw, 2, a piece of white paper, copier paper, drawing paper, or any other kind of paper works just fine, a pencil, an eraser, and then my 3 primary colored markers, yellow, blue, and red. So the first step is I'm going to lightly sketch out the flower onto my white piece of paper. These lines are going to be very subtle and very light, so that way I can easily erase them after I do my pointillism. My first step is I'm going to start with my yellow for all of the flowers. You can see that they're all pretty filled in, there aren't too many highlights, but if there are, they're going to be at the top of these petals up here. And you'll see that they're a little bit lighter. So what I'll do is I'll space my dots a little bit further apart for those highlights. Now that I've done all of the yellow dots, I'm going to go in and create this orange color using my red. So now you can see that I've started to create the illusion of orange, where you see it in the picture. Now I'm going to focus on the brown, and that's also something that I'll bring up into the petals as well. So if you remember the example, I will create a dark brown using all three of my primary colors. So for my dark brown, I'm actually going to start with blue in order to achieve this really dark value right around the edge of the center of the sunflower. I'll also be using the blue to bring up the details that you can see coming into the petals. So in creating this dark blue that you see in the picture, I'm going to concentrate my blue dots mostly around the edges of the sunflower center. Because you can see it actually gets a little bit lighter towards the middle. So I'm really going to keep these nice and concentrated and then gradually space them out to create a lighter shade of blue as I get towards the center. Now, just like I created the illusion of brown up here, I'm going to do the same thing with my red and yellow. So I'll concentrate the yellow more towards the center, but I'll also be mixing red in with that too to create that really dark brown. Alright, so now that I've finished the center of the sunflower, I'm going to add the last little bit, which is the green of the stem and the leaves. If you remember, we want to use a lot of yellow and just a little bit of blue in order to create a nice bright green. So I'm really going to concentrate that yellow over the whole stem, as well as leaving spaces in between the dots where those highlights should be. Alright, so here is my finished sunflower using the pointillism. So as a review, when you combine multiple colors, it helps you to achieve the illusion of a new color. So for instance, I combined the yellow and the red up here for the orange. I combined all three primary colors for the brown. And then I combined the yellow and the blue for the green of the stem. And then if I wanted to do purple, which unfortunately there's no purple in this picture, I would have combined the red and the blue. Alright, I hope you all had fun learning about stippling today, and now you're ready to go try it out on your own. Remember to practice with your color combinations to create new colors, as well as keep your value in mind. Stipple the dots closer together for darker shades and space them further apart for lighter shades. All right, see you next time.